Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. Skip tells us why there will not be another blowout tonight for LeBron because of the Celtic pride in Boston. Shannon explains why it's a fair comparison to compare Colin Kaepernick to Muhammad Ali and why history will look favorably upon Colin. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard checks in to tell us why Paul George was left off the All-NBA team and what it means for Paul's future. Nelly is back at the desk not to just collect on his steak dinner from Shannon, but Nelly and Rob Parker give their thoughts on the Warriors and Cavs dominance. Finally, we talk about if we should pump the brakes and if a Robert Griffin comparison is fair for Dak Prescott after his rookie season. Shannon, looking very formal today.
Shannon, you're dressed up for the big occasion tonight. This is coronation night. The parade is tomorrow. They win tonight. It's over in the East, and the Golden State's just going to give up, right?
Yeah, we didn't come. Yeah. You actually thought we satisfied with winning one game? Like Gordon Gekko, greed is good.
Greed is good.
We going 0-2.
Is that your Gordon Gekko?
Yeah, that's a Gordon Gekko. You know Wall Street with Michael Douglas?
Wall Street.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know both Wall Streets.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't think I got a Wall Street look on? I'll be doing this look, peak lapels, the pinstripe.
You look the part. I'm not sure you are the part, but that's okay.
Better deliver.
Yep.
Nelly will be in studio with us later in the show. Remember, Shannon owes him a very expensive dinner. Nobody forgot about that. I might tag along for that.
He might have forgotten about it until you brought it up.
No, we don't forget. But let's start with the Cavs. Game 2 between the Cavs and Celtics is tonight in Boston. Cleveland never trailed in Wednesday's win. LeBron is now 33-4 in the playoffs against the East since he came back to the Cavs in 2014. Yesterday, LeBron talked about what worked in Game 1 and looked ahead to Game 2. Let's take a listen.
LeBron, what do you think was the key to your defense yesterday?
Our energy and our intensity. I think our communication was high, our energy was high, and our intensity was there. So that was good ingredients for a good defensive performance.
What did you gather from last night on how the series, might play out, or at least how Game 2 might play out?
Well, there's going to be some adjustments made from both sides, and we have to be ready for it. Obviously, we don't know the exact adjustments, but we know they're going to make adjustments. That's what good teams do, and we have to be ready for whatever they bring to the table.
Skip, what do you expect tonight?
LeBron, he's something,
Whoa, what you mean he's something?
Yesterday, he says, I didn't feel so hot the other night. I'm going to feel a lot better tomorrow night. I have to shake off the rust here. My body's aching a little bit. Baloney. So here's what I expect tonight. A much closer game than in Game 1. And I've been ahead of these curves. I told you that Game 1 was going to be a wipeout, but this will not be a wipeout. This will not be 61-39 at halftime, because the Celtics on their home floor before some of the best fans in pro basketball got annihilated and humiliated in Game 1, and I think they will remind themselves that they were the #1 overall seed in the East by 2 games over the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they will come out tonight much more ready to fight for their playoff lives, to display their pride and their toughness that we've seen all year long from Isaiah Thomas and company. And I agree with J.R. Smith, who sort of warned his teammates, hey, he's going to anticipate there's going to be some dirty plays, some cheap shots from Boston, because they have some of that in them. And I think you're going to see some of that tonight, because that's about all they got against this team. They're going to go down, quote unquote, swinging, not literally, but figuratively.
So muck it up.
They're going to muck it up. And they're going to have to hark back to the one win they had in this building over the Cavaliers. Remember that fateful night of March 1st? What happened that night? They outshot the Cavs from 3, 13-10. They out-rebounded the Cleveland Cavaliers, featuring Tristan Thompson, 47-41. And they even outshot them at the free throw line. They had 18 makes to only 15 for LeBron's team. So that's the formula whereby you do this. And remember, Boston's not a very good rebounding team. They were 4th worst rebounding team in the league. Now, I got to remind you, Kevin Love didn't play that night and J.R. Smith didn't play that night. Just for the record, I got it. But you have to get LeBron James, forgive me for bringing this back up, but you have to get him in a late game freeze-up situation where you're going to make him make a choice. And I'm not sure they're good enough to get him where they got him on March 1st, because remember that night?
Yes.
He turned down a three-point shot, and then he turned down a freight train drive shot when Jay Crowder blew past him on the sellout closeout on the three-point shot, and he chose to pass it all the way across court to the newest Cleveland Cavalier, a guy who had just joined the team playing his first game, Darren Williams, who then took the three down 2 to put them up 1 with 6 seconds left, and naturally, predictably, he missed that shot. So that's the formula whereby you have to get them to that spot to hope that LeBron freezes up or makes the wrong choice. You think it was the right choice. I think it was the wrong one, but that's your only hope here. I think it'll be much closer. I don't think it'll be close enough. I'm going to go Cleveland 105-99 just because I think LeBron is that much better ultimately than Jay Crowder or anybody else who can guard him.
So you say this is not going to be a blowout. And did Larry Bird or Kevin McHale come back and play?
They're not walking through that door.
So is that the reason why you don't think it's going to be a blowout?
Well, I just think on pride alone, it's not going to be a blowout.
So they had no pride in game 1, huh?
I think they were shell-shocked. I think they got hit by a force because they've been playing the weak Eastern Conference, including the Washington Wizards, who play no defense. And all of a sudden, they got hit between the eyes by a very good defensive team, taking it up to its highest level, a level at which we saw Cleveland never play the whole regular season.
Well, Skip, I think it's going to be a very similar result to Wednesday. For the simple fact, I believe the Cavaliers will shoot much better from the three-point line. Now, inside the three-point line, they were phenomenal. But Kyle Korver had some looks. He's not going to miss those.
1 for 6.
LeBron James had some good looks. He went 1 for 6. I don't believe that'll happen again. And if they hit those shots, let's just say they make half of the 12 between those two, because Kyle Korver is very capable of going 5 or 6, 5 or 7 from the three-point line. The reason why they can't out-rebound the Cavaliers is because Tristan Thompson, he's what I call a clock guy. He's going to punch in the clock, he's going to do his job, he's going to punch out, and you're going to be very happy with what he did. Now, anytime Tristan Thompson can give you 8 points or more, that's a plus, because you know he's going to rebound, you know he's going to protect the rim, and the thing is, he's better at pick-and-roll defense than probably any other big guy because he can slide his feet. He understands what the guy's trying to do.
We talked about it, but he did a great job on Isaiah coming off on the switch.
The question is, will the Cavaliers be engaged for the entire game defensively? Because we saw for 2.5 quarters, the Celtics really got nothing. And then the third quarter, they had a lapse, especially like with about 7 minutes on, and they let the Celtics score 36 points to get back into the ball game. I think LeBron understands, and he will have talked to his team that, look, we can't have these lulls. This is not the time that we want to regress to where we were after the All-Star game defensively. But here's the problem for the Celtics. If you give a front line, LeBron James, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, you give them 90 points, Skip, you're not beating them. I don't care what formula. I don't care what answers you have to solve this formula. You give LeBron James, you give Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson 90 points of the 117, you're not beating them. Now, you notice in that interview, LeBron James had a Kyrie Irving shirt on. He understands. He knows Kyrie.
Oh, I did not notice that. That's good eye for detail. So he's sending a message,
I
need you.
No, I got you, dog.
I think I need you,
yeah.
dog.
Hey, I'm going to hold the fort down until you get that stuff going. But I'm going to need you.
Maybe LeBron thinks he's going to need some stuff tonight.
He might.
Yeah.
And I guess what? He'll be able to give it to him. Another problem that the Celtics have, they don't have anybody that can guard LeBron. They're either too small, too slow, or too weak. Now, they got the perfect guys. If you had Jay Crowder's height, Marcus Smart's strength, and you had Avery Bradley's feet, if you combine those people in one, oh, you got the perfect LeBron stop.
Yeah. See, Jay Crowder, he's not athletic enough. He looks the part, and he's built the part, but he can't move the part.
You got to work on his bench. You need to get that bench at like 315.
Well, he looks like he's got natural strength.
You know, LeBron do like 350 on the bench.
Does he really?
Yeah.
You lift with him a lot.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's the problem. Skip, I don't know why you got beef with. What up, a bad man? Oh!
He's a bad man. So, speaking of that, before I leave this topic, So I just want to get this straight. So Shannon Sharpe has gone from predicting early on that Boston would win a game to Boston is going to get blown out in both Boston games.
No. I don't think that. Well, see, the game on Wednesday night was a lot bigger than the final score would indicate. I think it would be 10 points, but I don't think they'll get that 30-point lead like they had in game one. But Skip, do you actually expect them to go shoot 35% again? They're gonna put up more threes, first of all, and they're gonna hit those threes. Now, the decision that they're gonna make, probably, I think, is that, look, when LeBron starts to drive and beat one guy, we got to give help. And when you give help, so he might not have 30 points. He might have 25 to 28, but he's gonna probably have 12 to 15 assists. Because if you're willing to leave those three-point shooters, he's going to find them. But what's amazing about LeBron, Skip, is that he's increased his scoring average in each round and increased his field goal percentage. So not only he went from 26 regular season, shooting 54, go to 32, go to 36.
His opponents keep getting worse and worse.
Skip, I don't know about that, all that. This is the number one seed in the East. You said they gonna get this, and LeBron James gonna have to go to the Garden.
I didn't think
that man don't care.
I never thought much of Boston.
Where y'all want to play? Like you always tell somebody.
I told you I like Chicago a lot. Chicago went in the first two games, won both of them at Boston Garden.
You know, like you tell me, Conor McGregor just tell somebody to just show up. LeBron say, James say, show up.
Okay.
Go down to the rec. We'll meet you there and bust you up too.
Here's what I want you to know.
Okay.
I spent way too much time last night thinking about you because I always think of Shannon all night long as I prep for Undisputed. And I started thinking, why has LeBron been so dominant in the Eastern Conference?
Okay.
So I started thinking back, how about the drafts post-LeBron's draft? He's a great draft pick, one of the all-time great draft picks, right? We talked the other day about best number one overalls. I had him 5th, you had him 1st, but he's top 5, okay?
No, he's top 1.
Okay, well, that's your view.
People that
Blind witness that you are. But, okay, Eastern Conference All-Star team just this year. What did I see on draft slots? I saw, of the whole roster, 3 former number 1 overall picks. LeBron and Kyrie. Those are 2 great number 1 overall picks. Wouldn't we agree?
Yes.
All-time great. Kyrie's a great number 1 pick.
Yep.
The 3rd number 1 overall was John Wall, who's been, dare I say, a disappointment as a number 1 overall pick because 7 years in the league, they've only gotten to the playoffs 3 out of those 7 years. Farthest they've made it is to the 2nd round, and we saw John Wall disappear in Game 7 the other night. And I'm sorry, I said before the draft, I didn't love him. I would have taken DeMarcus Cousins, his Kentucky teammate, number 1 overall that year. So is he even in the same stratosphere with LeBron and Kyrie as a number 1 overall? No.
There's no shame in that.
Okay, but here's my point. So let's go down the list. Who's the next highest pick of the whole Eastern Conference All-Star roster? Well, it's Carmelo. But Carmelo has been a career-long slight disappointment because we know he can score, but he can't make his teammates better, so he's never had much success in the postseason.
Correct.
Fair to say?
Yeah.
And now he looks like, compared to LeBron, they were in the same draft, he's looking like an old 32. Right?
Right.
LeBron is a very young 32. I will give you that. He's looking very fresh for his age, but Carmelo, not so much. So that leads us down to the next high pick. Oh, it was Kevin Love, 5th overall. That's a good, solid pick, right? Wait a second. So the 2 runaway slam dunk number 1 overalls, they're on the same team. LeBron and Kyrie are on the same team. And then Kevin Love is also on the same team. What do you think is going to happen in the Eastern Conference at that point? Because all the other All-Stars are way down the line picks. You have to start going way deep into the draft to find everybody else. What do you think is going to happen, Shannon Sharpe, LeShannon? What's going to happen? They're going to dominate the Eastern Conference. I'm sorry. Right?
Yes.
Okay, and then let's go bigger picture. Of all the number 1 overall picks, no matter where they went to the East or West, since LeBron in 03, starting 04 with Dwight Howard, Dwight's been a disappointment wherever he's been. I'm going to just go quickly.
Not in Orlando. He was a very.
I know, but was he a threat to LeBron in Orlando?
They beat him.
Yeah.
Remember in 09?
It wasn't his doing. It was all those snipers they had, all the outside shooting.
Skip, he averaged like 32
Lewis.
and 15.
Okay. Who? Dwight?
No, yeah, Dwight.
Okay. All right, so I'll give you 1 year. But has he ever really lived up to that billing? He hasn't. Does he have any championships? No, he got to the one finals, and they lost to Kobe and company. Then it's Andrew Bogut, Bargnani, Greg Oden, who'd had injury issues. Derrick Rose was interesting. He did have the one pinnacle year, the breakthrough year in 2012 as the MVP of the league. And he's 20-21 in the postseason, and that 2012 year was the first year LeBron joined forces in South Beach, and it went to the conference finals, Bulls versus Heat, and what happened? Bulls won Game 1. That was the pinnacle of Derrick Rose's career. One game that he won at home against LeBron and company, right?
Yep.
And then what happened? 4 straight happened. Sweep the rest of the way. That was it.
Who did they put on Derrick Rose in the fourth quarter?
LeBron.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Derrick Rose in the end was a 6 foot, what is he, 6'3"-ish point guard who can't have huge impact. Then he started getting hurt, and then I started to question his intangibles and his commitment. He sort of lost it psychologically, it seemed like, in Chicago, and he's a shell of himself. And then Blake Griffin is the next year. And there's always been something missing, and now he's turned into Tony Romo where he gets hurt like every other play, right? And then I mentioned John Wall, then comes Kyrie, way to go. Then Anthony Davis. He's just, I don't know. He's 5 years in the league, and they've been in the playoffs one time. And I keep saying, where is he? And you like him. I don't love him. I'm sorry. And then Anthony Bennett was a disastrous pick by the Cavaliers. Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns came back-to-back. Now they've joined forces, so to speak, in Minnesota.
Still can't make it.
And what's happened? They went 29-53 together as #1 overall picks, and then they improved by all of 2 games this past season, 31-51. Really? So those two together went 22 games under 500 and 20 games under 500, and that's a threat to LeBron James? I don't think so. I'm doing the big picture now. Right. So there's a dearth of superstars since LeBron.
Yes.
He's been blessed to have played in an era, and obviously he's an all-time great player. I got some issues with his game, but we have to nitpick at the highest level if you start talking about Michael Jordan. But overall, do you see what's happened? There's not another guy. There's not some big threat to LeBron where you say, okay, Kevin Durant was the 2nd overall pick, and that was a great pick. And so he's the most gifted player of this era post-LeBron, right?
Right.
So what did Golden State do during this era? Well, they stole Steph Curry with the 7th overall pick. This is Spurs-like. This is how the Spurs stayed in business. And then with the 11th overall pick, they stole Klay Thompson. And then with the 35th overall pick, Golden State stole Draymond Green. Wow. Oh, and then you add the #2 overall pick, Kevin Durant, with an MVP to that group. What's going to happen? This is happening. We got 2 simultaneous sweeps going on in the East and the West, and I just pretty much laid out why that is happening.
But here's the thing, Skip. It was I think if you look at it, and everybody says the 80s was the golden era of basketball because we had Bird and Magic. And we saw them in the NCAA finals, and we got an opportunity to see that. But if you think about it, in the 80s, either the Celtics or the Lakers were in every final. Not one person said, you know what, this is bad for basketball.
Okay, because of those 2 figures, those 2, is that what you're talking about, the Bird Magic? Yeah.
That's an anomaly. But guess what you had in L.A.? You had #1 overall pick, Magic Johnson. #1 overall pick, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. #1 overall pick, James Worthy.
You did.
On the exact same team.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, Larry Bird and the Celtics. Look what they had. They went to 5 or 10 finals. Larry won 3. They lost 2 to the Lakers. Magic went to 8 finals in a 10-year span, won 5 of them. Nobody said that was bad for basketball, and the reason why can't no one challenge Magic in the West is because there was no one drafted. Skip, when you combine the best players and you put them all on the team and they have a common...
I got it. But during that era, there were threats to their dominance on both sides because the bad boy Pistons weren't a threat.
Skip, the Lakers or the Celtics played in every final, and the bad boy Pistons didn't win until '89. By that time, the Celtics had started to crumble. They had started to get old. Bird started to have the problems with the back, the knees with Kevin McHale. And that's not to take anything away from the Pistons, Skip, but it's always been like this. That's why you only have a handful of teams that have won the titles.
Okay, but Patrick Ewing was a bigger threat than you're giving him credit for.
To who?
to all those teams. He pushed all of them.
Skip.
He was better than any of these draft picks I just read you since post-LeBron.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. You're looking at Pat Ewing. His career is complete. Let's see when it's all said and done when these guys' career is complete. You didn't say that about Michael Jordan. You didn't say there's no one to challenge him. Because when you have it...
hey, we all knew starting in 1984 that he was coming.
Yes.
They knew it. The Celtics knew it. The Lakers knew it. The bad boys knew. They all knew he was coming. 23 in Chicago was on the rise. It was just a matter of time.
But I like to look at LeBron as Usain Bolt. He knows he can't be first all the time, but he's so far ahead, but by the time they catch up, he's already got 3 gold medals in the 100 meters, 3 gold medals in the 200, and has never lost a world championship on a world stage.
In the Eastern Conference right now, do you see someone on the rise where you say, just give this kid some time? I'm not sure I see that kid.
Is there one player?
Is it Ben Simmons? I don't know. I wasn't even sure about him at LSU.
Is there one player? No, you're going to have to get, to take down a super team, you're going to have to get a super team. You got to remember, Skip, Jordan, once he got Scotty and they started playing together and they had a nice little run, they had Cartwright. And then that last three-peat, they got Dennis Rodman. Skip, you know no one was going to beat them in the East. They had the best rebounder of his generation.
Although Indiana took them to the last drop in Game 7, Reggie's team, because it was loaded with a lot of talent. Because Chris Mullin was there and Mark Jackson was there.
But Indiana and Boston took LeBron to Game 7s. But you don't want to give them credit. But you give Michael Jordan, the Indiana Pacers, credit for taking Jordan to Game 7. Why not give LeBron? He went to Game 7s. When you get a transcendent...
I can't give this year's Pacers any credit.
No, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about in the beginning, when he was in Miami and when he busted up the set, broke him up. He broke them up in Boston. They tried to form a new group in Brooklyn. He broke them up. I call him Yoko Ono because he's breaking up all groups.
They were ancient. You know it and I know it. They
So
were
what
at the end of the line.
What were the bad boy Pistons? What were the Celtics? Ancient.
Which year?
Ancient. Because they kept him suppressed. They kept him suppressed, kept him down. Larry Bird said, you get nothing Michael Jordan and you will like it.
LeBron is
Isaiah, Joe Dumars,
LeBron
John
blessed,
Sally,
blessed,
Rick Mahorn, Lambeer says, you will get nothing and like it.
Oh, okay.
You know who the competition is?
Anybody ever say that to LeBron?
You know who the competition is with LeBron? When he walks by the mirror every day.
Ooh.
That's his competition.
Are you standing behind him telling him how great he is? A little pat on the back. What is it, December 30th? 1984. Game 2.
The Mac computer. You remember that commercial with the Mac computer?
Boston. A win tonight would make them the only team in NBA history to start back-to-back postseasons with 10 straight wins.
I don't even want to talk about LeBron.
No mercy. USA Today reported that longtime 49ers advisor and sociologist Dr. Harry Edwards donated a collection of Colin Kaepernick's items to the National Museum of African American History at the Smithsonian. Edwards said the museum should display the items ASAP. Quote, I said, I don't want to wait 50 years to try and get some memorabilia and so forth on Kaepernick. Let me give you a game jersey, some shoes, a picture, and it should be put right there alongside Muhammad Ali. He's this generation's Ali. Shannon, do you agree?
I've said this, and I do agree, because I believe in 15, 20, 50 years from now, history will look fondly upon Colin Kaepernick and the stance that he took for the betterment of the minorities. See, people have a hard time looking at Colin Kaepernick as a Dr. King, as a Muhammad Ali, or as a Miss Rosa Parks, because they're looking at these iconic figures 50 years after the fact. But I can assure you that when Miss Parks did what she did, I think in 1955, I'm sure there were some blacks in her very community saying, why wouldn't she give up her seat? Now, she had given up her seat so many times before. Why is she causing a scene now? Just like they said about Colin Kaepernick, this police brutality has been going on. Why now? I'm sure when Muhammad Ali took the stance that he took, and Dr. Harry Edwards was one of the organizers of the Black Summit, or the prominent black athletes that came together to show their support for Muhammad Ali. And they asked Muhammad Ali, why wouldn't he go fight? He's like, why am I going to go kill some Viet Cong? They're not here calling me the end. They're not turning their dogs on me. They're not firing water hoses on me. But you want me to go across there and kill them when the people that I love and trust, care about the most are being killed here? I'm sure they said the very same thing about Dr. King. He's a troublemaker. He's a rubber rouser. J. Edgar Hoover had him tapped, called him a communist. Did everything they could to undermine him. If you do not like the message, let's try and undermine and discredit the messenger. Some of the very things that Colin Kaepernick is going through. You know, Abraham Lincoln had a famous quote, and I got it right here, Skip. He says, "I don't think much of a man who's not wiser today than he was yesterday." At some point in time, I don't know when, I don't know where, I don't know how, but Colin Kaepernick had an evolution, had an epiphany, that he had a greater calling than playing football, playing quarterback in the NFL and playing football in the National Football League. He's like, what I see going on, it bothers me. And if I don't say something, because maybe it was, well, somebody else is going to do it. Well, somebody else is going to do it. Somebody else is going to do it. And Colin says, hold on, this has been going on for a long time and no one else is doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a knee. This will get their attention. And when I get their attention and they ask me, why am I kneeling or why am I not standing for the national anthem, I can tell them the very reasons that I'm not doing it. You see, Dr. Edwards is one of the guys that I would assume, because of his background in race and social, all things social related when it comes to the black community and the history of America, he would know better. He had it firsthand. He had a first row seat, maybe not even a first row seat. He was standing next to the guy, Muhammad Ali. He advised Colin Kaepernick, I'm sure, on some of the things when he took the stance. Now, Colin had made it very clear. He told no one that he was going to do this. But I'm sure after it started and the backlash started, he probably asked a Dr. Harry Edwards or Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, how do I proceed from here? And you've seen his evolution go from sitting to kneeling to donating his money to getting airlines to donate jumbo jets so he can send food and water to the famine in Somalia. You see him standing out front of parole officers, that guys that come through the system, if they are fortunate enough to get an opportunity to go interview for a job, you look somewhat decent. You don't come in there rat-a-tat-tat because you want to put on your best face. Skip, I believe in 50, 30, 40, 50 years from now, history will judge Colin Kaepernick a lot different than he's being judged now, because some of these iconic figures, Dr. Muhammad Ali was ostracized. There are a lot of people, even in the very communities, we're not talking about the other communities, in the black community, look down upon Muhammad Ali. I'm sure there were some. Why you got to cause trouble, Rosa? You've given up your seat so many times before. What's different today? Dr. King, you grandstanding. You ain't about to cause. The very same things they say about Colin Kaepernick, they said about these figures. But it wasn't until today, because 1967, that's 50 years ago. It wasn't until today that we see them and we realize what they did and what they stood for was for the betterment of all, but especially the African-American community. And I believe Colin Kaepernick will be judged rightfully so as well.
I've often said on the show, Undisputed, that on these topics, I always defer to your perspective or to Joy's. And in this case, I do, but I'm torn about this one. So I'm going to give you the white guy's perspective. I'm disqualified, okay? So forgive me if I misstep or misspeak, because I'm speaking only with my heart.
Okay.
I've told you before, Muhammad Ali was my favorite athlete growing up. And I was a child of the 60s. And look, before I proceed, I've also said many times on our Kaepernick discussions, Colin Kaepernick has had profound national impact. He wound up on the cover of Time magazine. He opened a whole lot of eyes and ears and hearts and heads. He opened up some souls of some white people to say, oh, wait a second. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is a real problem. Now, I can't measure the impact of that right now because we're in the moment of it, so I'm not sure how it's going to play out, and we won't know for sure until we can all step back however many years it takes to frame it correctly. But I was such an Ali fan because of the ground he was breaking in the 60s. I had 2 posters on my wall in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I had Muhammad Ali and I had Joe Namath. Why did I have Joe Namath? He was shattering the mold of how white guys were supposed to act. You were supposed to keep your mouth shut and your hair short and hand the ball to the official and just play.
Right.
And Joe Namath said, hell with that. I'm Broadway Joe. I'm going to grow my hair, and I'm going to wear white cleats instead of black cleats.
I'm going to wear a fur coat.
And I'm going to be the Mick Jagger of the National Football League. Yeah, I'm going to embrace being Broadway Joe. I like the ladies.
And the pantyhose commercial.
I like my Johnny Walker, you know, and the pantyhose. So he did all that, and it's just like, what? Groundbreaking in a good way. It had a positive impact on the way white guys viewed sports, to me. But this other guy, along came this guy named Muhammad Ali, who was Cassius Clay at that point. And he proclaimed himself the greatest. He did, and he backed it up.
The GOAT.
And then he proclaimed victory after victory. He would do something you just can't do. Namath had done it once. When he held up his finger to run off the Super Bowl field, he had guaranteed victory. Well, Ali guaranteed victory every time, and he backed it up every time.
And told you the round, Skip.
Told you the round. Didn't always come through with the round, but he came through with the win.
Yes.
So he had beaten Sonny Liston, the bear. You can't beat Sonny Liston. He's going to get mauled by the bear, right? Nope, beat him twice. And he beat the great Floyd Patterson a little at the end of his time, but he beat him. And he was on his way to becoming the greatest. Not just the greatest boxer, but potentially we're all seeing hand speed we'd never seen, foot speed we'd never seen for a man that large. I don't know what he weighed. That 220?
No, he was 205.
205.
Yep.
It seemed like at the end of his career, he got up more toward 220. But for a man that big, that quick, that skilled, and that supremely confident, we'd never seen such a package like this. And it rocked my little world in Oklahoma City. And he was saying to black people, this is my white guy view, but he was saying to black people everywhere, just be yourself.
Yes.
Embrace who you are. Embrace your nature. Embrace your way. Embrace who we are. And don't be afraid to speak your own mind. And I think it had profound impact on a racially torn country that was even more racially torn than we are now in so many other ways.
Yes.
You know, we don't have time for some history lesson here. But so along comes the Vietnam War. And along comes him being drafted, and he's entering his prime at age 25, and he willingly said, I give up the next 3 years of my prime from age 25 to 28, when I can become the greatest boxer ever. No, and the quote was that you referred to, I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. No Viet Cong has ever called me the N-word, as you said. And then the Jim Brown Summit happened that Dr. Edwards was part of, but Jim Brown organized it because it took place in Cleveland where Jim was playing for the Browns. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was not Kareem yet, he was Lou Alcindor, was playing at UCLA and came to it as a college athlete. He came all the way to Cleveland to sit on the dais next to Muhammad Ali. And the great Bill Russell, 11 championships in 13 years, was there. And you don't think that sent a profound message to the black community that we are with this man, and we want we want America to know we're on his side.
The greatest black athletes in America was at that summit. So imagine if
every time I see that picture, I get chill bumps.
Imagine if you had a summit now. LeBron James, Cam Newton, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, all the great black athletes show up. That's what happened here.
We had something like that at the ESPYs a few years back. It was it's in the ballpark of that. But that was so groundbreaking, the message that they sent. And then Ali's timing was astounding because he caught the leading edge of the shift in America's view of the Vietnam War to pro-war to, wait a second, anti-Vietnam.
Yeah, what are we fighting?
And then Ali went from pariah to sort of leader of the anti-Vietnam movement. Wow. Because he had the gift, you know, he could sense it, feel it, and he had the courage to then say it and back it up. And I can't, forgive me for this, but I just can't quite yet put Colin in the same breath with Muhammad Ali. I'm just not there yet.
Because you're having the same approach that everybody's having, because you're looking at Muhammad Ali now,
maybe,
as opposed to then.
But it just seemed like he had so much more to give up. He had proven so much more than Colin has been able to prove yet. And I'm not sure that Colin, when he began his protest early last season, thought that he had this much to lose where he could lose his whole career.
Right.
God help us all. I don't think he's going to lose his whole career because I think Seattle's going to give him a shot.
But they might, and he might not play again. But if you look at, basically, it was Jack Johnson who taught, played, and did what he did in the ring, and then it's Muhammad Ali. There's like a 50-year gap in that skit.
Nobody knew Jack. I mean, there was no media.
No.
You know, like it was just hard to know. I know him through a movie now.
Right,
you know?
right. And so when you, and black athletes, the way they looked at black athletes in America then, be happy that you're allowed to play sports, make money, and don't say anything. Muhammad Ali said, nah, I'm going to tell you what I'm about. I'm going to do it. This was the same time about the plans that they came with Black Power. Yep. You also remember James Brown came out with a song, Say It Loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Ali say, be proud of who you are. James Brown say, be black, you black, be proud of it. And I just think that Colin Kaepernick, he might play, he might not. And like you said, maybe he didn't think that, you know, hey, I'm talented, I can, you know, I'm going to get another opportunity. I don't think Muhammad Ali didn't know if he'll ever get an opportunity because this went all the way to the Supreme Court. There was no guarantee, Skip, they would rule in his favor. Because if they hadn't ruled in his favor, they weren't going to relax this. They weren't going to say, you know what, you served enough punishment. You learned your lesson. We're going to let you go fight. There's a great chance he might have not fought ever again.
I agree.
But the Supreme Court says, hold on, yeah, this man is right. On his religious purposes, he does not have to go. And as you mentioned, he gave up 3 prime years. Not just fighting, Skip, money-earning potential years. So you take an athlete, you take a LeBron James, and it says, okay, you got to give up 3 years of your earning potential, 3 years of playing NBA basketball, or Cam Newton, or one of these black athletes. What made it so impactful to what he did that he was willing to do that?
Yeah.
Because we see so many now, Skip, they want that, I don't want to touch that. Why is he doing it? Why is he upsetting the apple cart? Why? Because the brands don't want any negativity brought to them. But back then, there were no brands.
Yep.
You were your brand.
Yeah. Well, that's one big glaring difference is that there's a lot more money on the table for athletes to leave. But also one thing that you mentioned that I think aside from the history of it and the time passing is Ali was one of the greatest speakers we've ever seen in the history of the world. His ability to talk and affect people was astounding. And Colin doesn't even really talk. We haven't even heard him speak very much outside of after the protest, him doing interviews.
I think he's highly capable of it.
Yeah, maybe he is, but we don't hear it. And Ali was in your face with it. So that kind of effect really reached people. And also, just as a note, Ryan Fitzpatrick was signed today by the Tampa Bay Bucks as a backup. So there's another backup spot off the board.
Sometimes, Skip, people only see you as you are. But life is change. Growth is optional. Choose wisely. I believe Colin Kaepernick is starting to grow.
No mercy. Yesterday, the All-NBA teams came out, and Paul George did not make any of the 3 teams. If George had been voted All-NBA, the Pacers could have offered him the richest contract in NBA history. Now, he is not expected to sign a contract extension with the Pacers. We're joined by Chris Broussard. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Hello, Chris.
Thank you.
How will this impact Paul George's future?
Well, first, let me say I do agree with George not being on the All-NBA teams. I do think he's better than Jimmy Butler and had a better year. I would have put him above Jimmy Butler, but I didn't have Butler on it either. My first team forwards were, I'm an official voter, LeBron and Kawhi, Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then Draymond Green and Anthony Davis on the 3rd team. Davis made first team as a center. But I thought Cousins was there.
Well, does he qualify as a forward?
They want you to have Cousins is really the center, right? DeMarcus Cousins. But they're close enough. But they want you to choose a real.
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's how DeAndre made it last year.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I agree with that. But I think what this does is this puts the ball in Indiana's court. Because if George had made All-NBA, they would have offered him the big supermax, 5 years, $210 million, and he would have had to make a decision. He doesn't seem to want to come out and make a decision. We've heard L.A., but that's from anonymous sources. His agent hasn't said it. He hasn't said it publicly. Indiana, they will tell you he's given them no indication that he wants to leave. He's just said, I want to win.
What about that tweet with the Boston Celtics jersey on yesterday? What did that say?
Well, that could be, yeah.
What did that message say?
If it meant he would sign in Boston, because look, Indiana still has an offer for him on the table.
Yeah.
It's like 4 years, 150 or whatever it is they can offer him at this point. He could, if they traded him to Boston for that number 1 pick, Boston could offer him that as well. But if I'm Boston, I only make that move if I can get him to sign. But there's no incentive for him to sign because he's going to try to have an all-NBA season next year and then get the Supermax. But
Which
if you're,
would be what, 230?
Yeah, next year with the cap will go up again. But this is, if I'm Boston, I can't give up the number 1 pick with no guarantee I'll have you beyond 1 year.
Yep.
Well, if he said, I'm good, I'll sign, I mean, you'd have to have his word on it, right?
A verbal?
No, I ain't doing no verbal.
Yeah, because remember Kevin Love gave Cleveland a verbal, and obviously he stayed, but there was, you weren't sure for a while, and you had LeBron there to sell him, whereas what's Boston got to sell Paul George to make sure he stays? So you would do it for a verbal?
Nope. Well, I know the last I saw a movie, the last verbal and handshake is called Founders, about the situation with the McDonald's Corporation with Ray Kroc and the McDonald brothers. So I'm kind of out on those handshakes and those verbal agreements.
Last verbal I remember is Usual Suspects. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
That was a bad verbal, right? So, gut feeling before I let you go of this. What happens? What's your gut tell you that is how this will play out?
I think he stays for the rest of the summer. I think he gets traded before the trade deadline.
Next,
because I don't think he'll give them any indication. He won't say anything like Kevin Durant, like LeBron when he first left Cleveland. Just play it out and then Indiana
going to patiently engineer a trade to Los Angeles, to the Lakers?
Gosh. Look, I may be in the minority. I think the Clippers have a good shot at getting him. Because if I were them, I'd re-sign Blake Griffin, wouldn't give him a no-trade clause, and then I would offer him at the deadline to Indiana. And if you're Indiana and you're going to lose Paul George.
You got to get something in return.
Yeah, why not Blake?
Go ahead, Skip.
I have fallen out of love with Paul George. I just have.
But he's still a good, he's still a really good player.
He's a really good player, but he has fallen from superstar, in my view, to star. And there's nothing wrong with being a star until you start talking about Boston giving up the number 1 overall pick. I just wouldn't do that. Now, again, I'm on record. I'm a Lonzo Ball fan. I believe he's transcendent. Shannon's not so sure about that. If I'm the Boston Celtics, I just take Lonzo and never look back because I believe 5 years, 10 years from now, if they don't take him, they will regret not taking Lonzo Ball. And again, it's hard. You say, well, he doesn't fit with, I don't care who he fits with. I just say he's that good. You cannot pass him up with the number 1 overall. My heart would like to see him with the Lakers because it would be a great story for the league. The Lakers need him. They need this. They need LeVar for that matter. I mean, just the whole dynamic of it. It would put them back on the national map. Would they not be a big story starting with the summer league? Right?
I agree with everything you said because I'm the same way with Lonzo.
Okay. All right. So there's no way I'm going to trade basically Lonzo Ball for Paul George at age 27. And again, he had a horrendous knee injury, one of the worst I've ever seen. Broken leg. Yeah, I'm sorry, broken leg. And it was so crushing that I think it crushed a part of his confidence. And I know this is just like armchair psychology, but he never seemed like quite as dominating post-injury as he was pre-injury. Like he lost a little bit of his spark and his confidence. And against LeBron this year in the first round, he wasn't as confident as he used to be. He was shrinking in game 1 from the last couple shots. I'm sorry, he didn't used to be like that. So that's my gut feeling, is that he's not going to be worth a price that somebody is going to have to pay for him ultimately.
Would you, if you were, I apologize, Shannon, if you were the Lakers or if you were Boston, would you give up the number 1 pick for the number 2 pick and, Brandon Ingram or whoever you'd have to get?
No. You mean at the expense of Lonzo?
Yeah. So,
no.
Because the Lakers we know they want Lonzo.
Yeah. I mean, if I could get Lonzo and then ultimately add Paul George somehow to that, I'd take that.
But Paul George and Ingram really play the same position.
I don't care.
Both
I'd take them with Lonzo.
I was just thinking, like, if the Lakers get an inkling that Boston wants Lonzo, then they may offer you the number 2 pick and one of those young players, and you wouldn't do that if you were Boston. And you could still get, like, Markelle Fultz. And whoever you got from the Lakers.
I wouldn't do at the expense of Lonzo. I'm not doing it.
I think if Paul George plays like he did when he was April NBA's Eastern Conference Player of the Month, I think if he plays like that all season next year, he'll be on the All-NBA team. Now, it's tough because you got Kawhi, you got Bron, and you got KD. So there's a good chance you're probably not going to make first team, but all you need to do is make one of the 3 teams.
Some of those other guys
right.
are tough.
Yeah, hey, Gannis doesn't seem like he's taking a step back. So basically, I mean, you got to usurp Jimmy Butler. That's your option. You got to get past Jimmy Butler. That's what you're looking at. And so I like Paul George. I like his game. He's smooth. He can stroke the ball. He's good at shooting the free throws. He can shoot the 3
Except against LeBron in Cleveland at the
Skip!
end of the year.
You talk about one game. The man had a 44. He was, one rebound away from a triple-double with 44 points. He ended up averaging about 33. And so he played well, Skip.
Where'd that get them?
No, when you play that guy.
Further than Miami.
Hold on.
Oh, very good,
Chris,
very good.
When you play King Kong, how you expect to go anywhere?
Miami didn't have Deion Waiters healthy, by the way. Next up, Klay Thompson did not make any of the All-NBA teams. Draymond gave his thoughts on that yesterday. Let's take a listen.
I think it's bullshit. You know, when you look around, team, what we won, 67 games or something like that? And we probably just handed teams 3 or 4, talking a possible 70-win season. You know, I think Klay is one of our top 3 guys, you know, and to not be on an All-NBA team, I think it's pretty crazy.
Chris, do you agree with Draymond?
No, I don't. I think, look, he said the right thing. That's his teammate.
Sure.
And I think he was saying, I'm number 4, right? Because I don't think he's putting Klay ahead of Steph and KD.
Right.
So he said the right thing. I get it. But there's no way Klay, and I'm a huge Klay fan.
Yeah.
Who you taking off the All-NBA team? James Harden and Russell Westbrook first team. Steph Curry and Isaiah Thomas.
You have to go to third.
Second
third.
team.
Yeah.
Third team, John Wall and DeMar DeRozan. Like, I personally, and those were the guards I voted for, I think there are 3 guards I could name that didn't make it that I would put on before Klay. Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving, and Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have 4 All-NBA. I'm sorry.
Hell, let Draymond tell it. Zaza should have been the center. They should have had 5 guys on the All-NBA team.
He should have been the center.
Yeah,
we changed the whole playoff.
If we knew,
MVP of the playoff.
Chris, I agree with everything you said. You know, he had a great, but think about it. You want a guy on the 3rd team, on the All-NBA team, that's the 3rd option. And a lot of these guys are, at worst, 2nd option.
Yep.
How? I don't get that. And I agree with you. The guys that made it, is he going on over Harden or Westbrook?
No.
Is he going?
You got to go to 3rd team. Just go to the 3rd.
John Wall was a double-double guy. 20 points, 10 rebounds. DeMar DeRozan was average almost 30 points a game.
Yeah.
What about Kyrie? You like Mike Conley.
I love him.
I forgot about Conley. I would put Conley on before.
So Dame.
That's true.
Okay, but I love Klay Thompson, and you said you loved him too. And I think Draymond does have a point here. Listen, there's one factor when I'm rooting against Golden State. They have one nuclear X factor, and it's not Steph Curry, it's Klay Thompson,
Klay.
who can get even hotter than Steph Curry can get. You know this, and I know this, because when he goes nuclear, he has scored 37 points in a quarter before. He scored 27 in another quarter. And against Oklahoma City last year in big playoff games, he had 2 19-point quarters where you're just saying, that's too good. Like you just sit back and say, game over. He just did that.
Don't
right?
shortchange him, Skip. What about that 60 points in 29 minutes?
Okay, well, you can just keep
He's
on keeping
nuclear,
on.
but
He's
how
nuclear.
consistent?
Okay,
you know what I mean?
He is the best perimeter defender in the league. What he's been doing to Patty Mills is just stunning to me. And again, Patty's 5'11" and he's 6'7". But when they want Klay to go lock somebody up, I'm just talking about on the perimeter. He
Over
locks.
your man,
I thought you liked Kawhi.
Kawhi's a perimeter
but he's the whole thing. Kawhi can do big or little. He can go either way. But there are some guys Kawhi can't guard because they're just too little.
Like
not
LeBron.
Not Klay. No. What about LeBron?
Go ahead,
Kawhi
Skip.
can,
Go ahead, make your
Kawhi
point.
can
I
guard
can think of
LeBron
several.
for sure.
Avery Bradley, Patrick Beverly, and Klay's a really good defender.
He
You're
is
right.
Really good. And he can really move his feet for 6'7". I just think, okay, to me.
Who you taking off then,
I'm
Skip?
taking DeMar DeRozan off. I'm sorry. I just think Klay's better than him. I'm in a vacuum. I'm just thinking Klay is more valuable than DeMar.
Skip.
Maybe you can say he had a better.
But is he
DeMar.
okay? Is he better than Kyrie? Because you could have put Kyrie on instead of DeMar.
You know, this is a whole nother topic that we don't have time for.
You don't want to rip Kyrie.
No, I don't want to rip Kyrie, but something has been wrong with Kyrie for a while. Something, I don't know what it is. Like you made a great point. LeBron wore a Kyrie shirt to the media session. Yeah, was it yesterday?
Throwback, yes.
Wow. And so I think he's sending a message like, I need you. Could you call him?
I think very smart psychological warfare with LeBron. Like,
I got
I'm your man. I got your
I got
back.
you.
You the
I got
man.
you, but I think he's also saying, I need you.
But hey,
right?
I won't need you right now. I don't need you right
But
now.
he's going to need Kyrie. And for a long time, I don't see that Kyrie, that guy who can just take the game over.
You will see him in the finals because Kyrie doesn't dislike Steph. But he does want to go at
healthy,
Trust me.
whatever, like competitive.
Yeah. He specifically.
Hey,
don't think what I
Not only did he go at him last year, I thought he just outplayed him every game.
Because you got to make him work on the defensive end, and that's what teams do. And if you notice, when Isaiah Thomas struggles, it's because the other guy, the Bradley Beals, the John Walls, the other guys are making him work on the other end, and it's taking some of his legs out. Because trust me, when we played a team that had a tight end on it, like that guy was sitting in that chair yesterday. I don't think I would. Hey, I go to Romo and Steve Atwater. Don't y'all let that man show me up.
And you know what? He took it yesterday. He said, you got me.
Scared he had no choice. What choice he had? I'm cooking.
We had Tony Gonzalez on yesterday for everyone.
Cooking.
Anyone who didn't see. Well,
I would get it to
we
him.
have to have an authentic tight end around every once in a while.
That's the real thing. Look here. When we go have conversations at the Hall of Fame, only three. Now, one of the guys are deceased, John Mackey. When we sit at the table talk about, okay, what's it like to win a Super Bowl? Ain't nobody there but me and Dicker. I'm looking around like anybody else want to talk besides me and Dicker. So guess what?
You had a pretty good quarterback.
You know what I like? This is what I like, Chris. It's a team sport. But what about all the stats he got? Nobody said nobody team.
I'm with you.
Michael Jordan played a team sport. And they say he's the greatest, right?
But wait a second. John Elway made you.
No mercy. The Cavs and Warriors appear to be on a collision course for their third straight matchup in the NBA Finals. They are combined 19-0 in the playoffs. We're joined by Nelly and Rob Parker.
Yeah,
Rob,
that was me yawning. I'm sorry. I'm just so bored.
So bad for the NBA, I'm assuming. Good or bad for the NBA?
Terrible for the NBA. And I know for Skip and Shannon, it's fine because they have the elements that you want to talk about, and I get all that, and all that stuff will wind up. But I'm talking about for the average NBA fan around NBA America, this is awful. First time ever in the history of the league, the same two teams will meet in the NBA Finals, ever. And this league's been around almost 100 years.
For the third time, you
Third time.
Yeah, third time in a row. And it's just that there used to be, I know people say, well, Michael Jordan was 6-0 and the Celtics and Lakers played all the time, but there were other teams in the mix. You weren't always convinced that Michael Jordan was going to get through the Knicks or to get through the Pacers. No,
I was. Yes, you were.
If
I
you
was
lived
thoroughly
in,
convinced.
No.
If
you
lived
in New York, maybe during that time. No, I saw the Knicks win the first two games in the series against Michael Jordan before they went to Chicago and come back.
They lost 4 straight.
They lost 4 straight, but they were up 2-0.
Okay.
These two teams right now in the playoffs, 19-0 against the opponents. There's no pushback, no resistance. It's bad for the league.
I think it's more or less because of, I think injuries have made this season a little bit maybe not as exciting as opposed to just the setup. Because you look at Rondo going out, that series was going well. Rondo goes out, then you look at Utah, obviously. Utah. Utah. I mean, as far as Portland. The service, and then obviously Portland, and then you get down to Kawhi. And it's just like, well, injuries more so than the way it's set up.
LeBron has manipulated the game.
LeBron hasn't manipulated the game.
And
LeBron has dominated. He's dominated the game.
His dominance is easy because he maneuvered and moved people out of the way. It's just like Golden State. I'm telling you.
Everybody's running to the West.
They don't need Kevin Durant.
All the
free
free agents.
They got Kevin Durant for one reason. Let's get him out of the way to make a clearer path to the championship. That's what they did.
But you don't believe that.
But Rob, you say the golden era. A lot of people say the golden era because they had Bird and they had Magic. In the 1980s, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson played in every NBA final. And in the 2000s, I don't want to go that far back because, Skip, sometimes he won't let me go past 2000. In the 2000s, the Lakers and the Spurs played in every NBA final. Oh, my goodness. Nobody said
Nope.
That dominance is bad.
No, but there were other teams in the mix, and that's what you're leaving out.
There's other teams in the mix.
Come on, you know what I'm...
We're just talking about injuries.
The Pistons, 5 games.
5 games. Yeah.
That was a 5 game. The Pistons with no stars, Skip. You notice. 2004 beat the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe, who had already won 3 championships
It was a shocker.
in a row. That was a shocker.
Oof.
That'll never happen again. Not in this NBA that we're in.
You talk about the one upset.
That was a great
But
team.
the fact of the matter is, the Lakers and the Spurs from the West represented the Western Conference in every final for the entire decade.
Yeah, but the difference is...
Okay, tell me what it is.
The difference is you had other teams who were in the mix. There's nobody... Skip, you noticed before the season started. These 2 teams are going to make it, and nobody...
I did not know that. I thought San Antonio was going to make it.
You really thought the Spurs were?
Yeah, and they would have made it if I wouldn't.
So you got 2.5 teams.
Okay, Skip. I would love to turn to Skip. In the 2000s, did you think anybody was coming out of the West other than the Lakers and the Spurs?
In 2000.
In the 2000s. In the whole decade, because they went to every final. They had Shaq and Kobe together, and they had Tim Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili.
You got 2 teams, and now you're telling me there's only 1.
Okay, but you're turning into an NBA hater, and I'm not.
Look at Skip.
This man, he owns a little portion of an NBA team, just to keep it real.
Don't worry about that. We get him in the back.
I need tickets.
We get him in the back. We're going to talk to him in the back about that.
I don't think the NBA is in any trouble whatsoever. I have
it's
never
thriving.
had more fun talking NBA on live TV than I have this year.
Skip?
The Westbrook triple-double was off the charts great. The Harden versus Westbrook, we did it day after day.
MVP,
it was fascinating to
Skip,
me.
we talk about TV ratings all the time, which gives you a feel on where people are. Across the board on regional television, the local, 15% decrease in ratings. On the national broadcast, TNT and ESPN, 8% loss. Okay, because, yes, you're right. There was a couple of stories, but a lot of people are watching bad basketball in New York, in Brooklyn. I could go all over the country.
Was this during the presidential campaign? Or
no,
something?
no, that's not.
I think
no, it wasn't.
It did cut
Remember
in.
we were here on football?
It cut
People
in.
love football. Were the ratings down in football?
Yeah,
Yes, it
right
was.
down. And you know why?
Because of
there
the
were bad
campaign.
games. There were
The
bad
campaign.
games. There were bad games on
The
Thursday
campaign.
night. All I'm saying is
nobody's trumping
Are you ready?
TV right now.
We need to fix the NBA. I want them to work on competitive balance, somehow, some way, competitive balance. I want them to try to either make the 3 further away. They have to do something with the 3. And you know what? I haven't had an
Might as well
idea.
raise the rim to 11 foot.
Let's change the logo. Let's change the NBA logo to get back to greater times that we remember in the league. You ready? There's the new logo right there for the NBA.
I'm not mad at that.
Let's get rid of Jerry West
can't.
and let's go there.
You can't go there because that's
Why?
already a brand, and you can't put that brand already. That's a brand already. That's Jumpman. That's a brand. You can't do that.
We have to identify that. When Michael Jordan played, that was a great time.
Y'all gonna have to pay Michael Jordan about $10 billion to use that. You know what I'm saying?
He just owns the NBA.
might give that up.
Yeah, he might. $10 billion. I'm sure he'll sell it.
As far as technology, is Microsoft and Apple dominating the technology?
Yes.
That's bad. That's bad.
Are we
That's
getting
bad
bad
for
phones?
business. That's bad for business. I want someone else to come up with a smartphone. I don't want Apple and I don't want Microsoft dominating it because it's unfair, Skip. You know it, Skip.
What
Is that
accent
my
is
voice?
that?
I don't know.
You know it.
He's
Skip,
doing
you
me.
know, Skip, you know it. You know it. We
you doing
talked
Rob
about it.
He's never talked more proper in his life.
No mercy. Dak Prescott was the Offensive Rookie of the Year and tied the record for the most wins by a rookie quarterback with 13. But ESPN's Dan Graziano ranked quarterback confidence for all 32 teams, and the Cowboys came in 19th. Graziano wrote, "There is nothing about Dak Prescott's first season to discourage confidence other than the size of the sample. There is no reason to fear a Prescott tail-off other than the history that tells us to pump the brakes. After 16 games, Robert Griffin III looked like a sure thing. I think Prescott should be fine as long as his offensive line stays together, but a 16-game sample, no matter how brilliant, isn't enough to erase all doubt." Skip. Very qualified to talk about this. Is it fair to compare Dak to RG3?
Do I need to get Kale Pepto-Bismol? I know you're sick right now. Do I need to get it?
My blood pressure rose a little bit last night when I read this, and understand, I know Dan Graziano very well. He's a friend of mine. I spent some nights in that Bristol hotel with him when we were at ESPN together. And he grew up in the New York area covering New York teams. And I think all those reporters get taught early on sort of have a healthy skepticism when it comes to all things Dallas Cowboys. So I get that. But the more I thought about this last night, it is so disrespectful and so wrong to put these two quarterbacks in the same sentence. Obviously, RG3 was ultimately derailed by injury after injury after injury. So far, knock on this wood right here, Dak has been healthy, stayed healthy, taken his shots, gotten up and taken more shots. And to me, Dak's intangibles are so much stronger than Roberts proved to be. And his body so far has proven to be much stronger than a more slender-built Roberts body was able to take the punishment. As everyone knows, I loved RG3 when he was at Baylor going into that draft versus Andrew Luck. And I went so far out on the limb that I said I would take Robert over Andrew Luck with the #1 overall. And obviously the Redskins, thanks in large part to their owner, maybe against the better wishes and better judgment of one Mike Shanahan, traded up and traded the King's ransom to get Robert with the 2nd overall pick. And he backed me up for a year because he was the offensive rookie of the year, and he carried that team from a lousy start, the Redskins that year, to a division title, into a 14-0 lead over the Seattle Seahawks in a home playoff game. And you know what happened at that point? Bad stuff happened. But I did express some concern going into the draft about Roberts' intangibles. The one thing that scared me was had a big game one day at Baylor against Texas and did a sideline interview at the end of the game and said on national TV, I think I just won the Heisman Trophy. And I cringed because the voters don't love to hear you tell them that they're going to vote for you, right? And it bothered me a little bit, and then it started to bother me much more after the injury he suffered because his family got involved, his father got involved, and then Robert became all too self-aware. He became so egocentric that it was all about him, and they did a documentary about his rehab. Remember this? Got it sponsored, and it was just the whole offseason. It was one social media post after another, and he became self-obsessed to a fault. He began to alienate teammates and coaches, and finally, in the end, he alienated his own owner who had fought for him and protected him. And he just couldn't figure out how to use the gift that he had, which he is speed. He's a world-class speed guy. You know, he's a hurdler, obviously. But you can just take your occasional 8 yards that the defense is going to give you on that little zone read. Just take your 8 yards and slide. And he couldn't learn how to slide. I don't know why. They brought in some of the national people, to the baseball team's people.
How to slide into second base or third base.
Just slide. And he couldn't figure out how to get one leg down. You bend one leg and point your toe. He just couldn't do it, or he wouldn't do it. And you know what happened? Disaster happened. Because Robert was a slender-built, 6'2"?
Yeah, 6'2", maybe 200 pounds.
Maybe 200, but he sometimes looks slimmer than that.
Yes.
And Dak came with the man body. He came with the man body right away. And Dak showed you right away that he had the highest of football character. He took over that locker room. He started to lead men who were a lot older than him, and they followed. Des Bryant sort of said, okay, I'm gonna follow. He loved Tony Romo, but he followed this guy. He's a franchise difference-making quarterback who I believe I can bet on for the long haul. Now, I don't know, performance-wise, will they figure out some things? Will they test him? Dan, in his piece, has got, it's fair to say, well, let's show me a bigger body of work. I get that. I'm betting on him, and I think he's going to be even better than he was a year ago. But this even came across to me like Dan's bringing up the injury with RG3. It feels like a jinx attempt. You know, I'm knocking on wood again. You know, if Dak gets hurt, then I guess I'm out. But I'm going to hope and not pray, but I'm just going to hope that he doesn't get hurt.
Skip, I agree with everything you said. And the answer to the question, is this fair to compare Dak to RG3? No. The only thing that you can say that's comparable, Skip, they both started as rookie. One was drafted to start. The other got to start by injury. They both were offensive rookie of the year. They both went to the Pro Bowl. They both led their teams to the playoffs. Both lost their home playoff game. Both had a rookie running back. Zeke led the league in rushing. Alfred Morris had 600 yards.
He was really good.
But that was the year Adrian Peterson went wild and was won by 400 yards. They had also Fred Davis was the tight end. He wasn't Jason Witten, but they got him. He could make plays. That was also the Redskins had just signed Pierre Garçon. So I guess he was going to be their Dez Bryant. But the thing that they didn't have is the 3 best offensive linemen in football. And I agree 1,000% with you. We don't know what RG3 could have been because the devastating injury, it did more than wreck his knee. It wrecked his psyche.
It did.
He was never the same. And so it's hard to say. Maybe schematically, the defensive coordinators would have come up and said, no, we're not going to let you run the zone read. You're not going to run the read option. We're going to slow it down. We don't know because it did more than change the way he ran. It changed the way he thought. The difference also is that RG3 that 3 stood for I. Dak seems to be selfless.
He does.
That was the problem. And you talk about he got that once he started. No, he came there with that mentality. When you go into your head coach's office, that would be like me going to Jamie Horowitz's office. Jamie, you will give me my own radio show. You will allow me to speak as much as Skip, and I want my name in front of Skip. You will do this.
Wait, you speak 3 times as much as I do. Go ahead.
I should. Where did they do that at, Skip? When you have the confidence to go into your boss, but when you got the boss.
And remember, his father also went into the boss and said, you will turn Robert, this is going after post-injury, you will turn him into Peyton Manning, into a pure pocket passer. We want him protected in the pocket. Well, you're taking away a crucial part of what Robert does best, what he does great. He can throw it fine. He's really good. But
the fact that Robert and his father failed to mention or realize Peyton Manning had been a pocket passer his entire life. You had ran the spread and the read option your entire life. So there was going to be a transition that was going to have to take place. But he wasn't willing to wait for that transition. And then, okay, this is how we're going to approach your rehab, Robert. You're going to do this, this, and this. But Mike will say, okay, everything's going fine, and, we're going to rest Robert.
Mike Shanahan,
the head coach of the Redskins at Washington at the time. And then RG3 would have a press conference and says, I'm ready to play. I'm ready to go do this. And then Mike would have to have another press conference to like, no, this is the way we agreed that I didn't agree, I'm ready to go. And it was all about T-shirts and documents. I mean, hold on. You're rehabbing, you're getting married, you're going to the Kentucky Derby, you're doing all these things. So really, how important was football to you? I'm not saying you can't do those things, but in the process of coming off a devastating knee injury, I would have held most people, if you serious about this,
I agree,
and you want to be great, your fiance, your significant other will understand we're going to push the wedding back. Kentucky Derby, we'll go another time because I need to get all that time I can rehabbing. So it's hard for me to say that they do have some similarities. How they started and what they get, both went to the Pro Bowl. But Skip, it's hard to know what RG3 could have become because that injury. Because not only did it affect his body, it affected his mind. It affected the way he thought about the game because he became gun-shy.
Robert became more obsessed with promoting his brand than winning football games.
Yes, and
it happens. It's a hard comparison to swallow, though, I'm sure, for Cowboys fans, too, especially looking at where RG3 is now compared to Dak. But I know you love QBR, Skip, so I looked it up. Obviously, you know that Dak was only behind Matt Ryan and Tom Brady this year. He would have been first in total QBR in 2012. Just for a little comfort for you.
Really?
Yes.
Thank you, Joy.
No mercy. This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on Channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. That's it for us. Thanks for all the Dance Party Friday videos. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Have an awesome weekend.
Fox Sports, one of one.